Vivo bien, bastante bien.
No, pero vive demasiado bien. A mí no me paga el Estado ni el sueldo de los trabajadores, ni a usted sí infunde mucho miedo.
Sí.
¿Qué pasó con el Bester Gordillo?
Era evidente que habíamos tenido un conflicto personal.
En Internet hay muchos chistes de Chabelos.
Yo no soy eterno, yo soy un ser humano.
Esta ha sido una forma de tú trabajar tu duelo y tu dolor.
Lo único que quieres es mentarle la mamá a todo mundo.
¿Sabes qué es lo que más me excita de ti, Adela? Tu dentadura, tu nariz, tus ojos y tus pecas.
Pero sigo siendo el rey.
Este viejito pues, todavía puede.
Estás pasando aceite.
Mira, mi ideal como técnico es primero dirigir a la América y luego la selección mexicana.
Que sí oiga, y esto.
¿Hay miedo también de pensar en el retiro? ¿Sigues pensando que se puede vivir con 6,000 pesos al mes?
Estamos chupando tan a gusto, Miguel.
¿Nos cantas algo?
Dices que me quieres con el todo al todo.
La justicia es selectiva, esa manera de capricho, perdón.
Hay que
pero es
establecer
no
el
lo
orden
entiendo.
sin
A ver,
romper.
de nada
Que ahí
serviría
están.
reformar la Constitución si esto no se corrige. Not as a living God, as a demon.
Yes, I'm demon with horn.
Hazle tu famoso. Te gustan largos, ¿no?
No se vaya por otros lados.
Chistes. Hello, Richard. Oh, I'm sorry. How are you? Buenas tardes.
¿Tú?
¿Cómo estás? O sea, mucho miedo a la paternidad, pero tienes 3 hijos.
Tócame un vals con tus dedos, pinta de azul mi canción.
En este país, ser mujer, ser pobre y ser indígena es una triple condena.
No tuviste el valor para ser solo mío.
Mr. President.
Good morning.
Shalom.
Shalom.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Marco Antonio. Marco Antonio. Qué gusto. Adriana Manzanares.
Nació mi hijo y nació muerto.
¿Cuál es tu favorita? Si nos dejan, nos vamos a querer.
Por la pérdida de mi pie, mi muñoncito, lo presumo.
¿Nunca sentiste feo? ¿Lloraste?
¿Qué te parece si empezamos con la boa?
Adelante. Gracias.
Todos lo conocen por Panchito.
¿Qué está pasando en Michoacán?
Se habla de un estado fallido.
Sé que es ilegal también, pero yo prefiero cometer esta falta, pero me siento a gusto. La verdad no les pregunto.
¿Pueden terminar? ¿Se puede terminar con ellos?
I'm here today with Miss Universe. Who's my guest of honor?
Muchas gracias.
Salud, Adela.
Salud. La verdad, vamos a ver. Esto amerita un brillo. ¿Preguntar, mami? Don't say. No. ¿El que te viste o el que te desviste? No, es muy sensual, ¿no? Claro. ¿Is it the time to say goodbye?
No, ya estamos.
Ya, carnal. ¿Tienes enojo, tienes rabia, tienes coraje? ¿Mataste a tu hija? Yo te decía que me dieras un beso y no quería.
Sí, porque
Quítate la camisa, Joaquín. Muchas gracias, caramba. ¿Qué tal, Do you laugh with yourself? Do I? Are you shy, Sofía? I'm shy, I am.
Para conquistar a tantas mujeres en tu vida, ¿qué hacías?
Los expresidentes son como los jarritos chinos. Están muy bonitos, pero ¿qué hago con ellos?
Oye, que tiene razón.
¿Tiene algo? Esas son viejas, caramba.
This surface is brutal, Steve. Synthetic grass with sand, so you gotta play it like clay, but it bounces faster than grass. So you gotta slide into everything.
This is better than...
No, it's a brutal surface. It plays faster than grass, and you have to play like clay with your movement.
Really?
So you gotta slide to everything, but the ball's going so fast.
Wow.
You know, so it's the worst of clay and the worst of grass combined. Very slippery, very fast.
Wow.
At least clay's slippery, but you have time.
What do you like better? You like hardcore, no?
So, what I grew up on.
Yeah. Been together with Steven for how long?
Oh, since I was 16 years old. Yeah.
Since you were 16?
He ran sports marketing for Nike. Signed me to my first deal.
He was the one who signed you the first time? Oh, wow.
You know, to experience a few days in Las Vegas is extraordinary.
Wow, it's amazing. That is Disneyland.
For adults. Yeah.
For adults.
Yeah.
But then again, you live at a different Vegas. I mean,
for
it's,
sure.
Yeah.
It has a lot to offer, even separate from what people see.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You've always lived there? I mean.
Yeah, born and raised.
Yeah, born and raised. I know. And in many different hotels, I guess, all over the world.
Estamos grabando en 3, 2.
Thank you very much, Andre. Welcome.
Well, thank you.
How do you find Mexico?
Well,
you haven't seen much.
If this is any indication, I want to live here.
Yeah, I know.
It's beautiful.
Is this your first time?
No. I've been to many places in Mexico over the years, and sometimes playing, sometimes just with the family. So
yeah, enjoying.
Yeah.
And you like it? Like the beaches or what?
Yeah, we were in Cabo together as a family, and
Cabo is beautiful.
Yeah, Cabo is extraordinary. Yeah, people are so friendly. When I played here, it was always so warm. You know, how they reacted to me, responded to me. Well, even in my not so pleasant times, so it's good.
What do you recall of those not so pleasant times? I mean, what's the feeling now when you look back?
How do you put it in perspective looking back? You look back and you see somebody searching for themselves, you know? You see somebody looking for their identity, looking for their connection, looking for their reason. And this was my journey. So much of my journey has been a search for that, an exploration. People saw me as expressing myself, you know, with my clothes or my hair, but this was a rebellion, you know, this was an exploration of
provocation also, like you wanted to provoke and...
any feeling was better than no feeling. Let me put it that way. And that disconnect left me pretty empty. So I'd rather rebel than feel nothing.
But the process for you was very painful.
It was.
And it's not the same for all the people. I mean, in searching of themselves. And for you it was very painful, no?
Yeah, I can't speak to other people because I've always looked at my peers and wondered what they're really feeling, what they're really thinking. Because I only knew one existence, and it was filled with expectation. It was filled with a need to have to be something for other reasons, and never my own sort of choice. Not until I was much older. So these feelings made me feel disconnected with my environment, with my peers, with everybody. So if people's life wasn't painful, then it was definitely different. But I always thought and assumed everybody was, and we're all trying to figure it out.
But the journey, like to get to know yourself, that was very painful.
It sure was. It was me hating tennis.
Is it really? I read your book like months ago, and then I reread it yesterday.
Wow.
And page 1, you say, "I hate tennis." Was that the case? You really hate it?
Isn't that interesting that out of all the controversy that came in the very beginning when my book came out, that page 1 had the biggest controversy?
Well, I hate tennis.
Right.
All your life has been tennis.
Yeah, but it was important for me to allow people to understand what goes on in the psyche and the development of a human journey. You know, we all have different experiences, but I think many of them are the same. You know, none of us have much choice in our life, where we're born, what's nurtured, what's not nurtured, how we're nurtured.
That's the way it is.
It's just the way it is for everybody.
Those are the cards you were given.
The cards I was given, and by the time I had choice, I had already made a decision. The decision was already made. So this was a feeling that I had to come to terms with. You know, my father had so much pressure on the kids to be successful, and I was the youngest, and I was the one with the opportunity, and I was the one that couldn't fail, and I was the one that needed the, you know, you carry this pressure whether it's meant for you to carry or not. It's just something you feel, and then you leave home and you go on with this dream of being something that you're supposed to be, and if you don't, you fail. And
it was never good enough, I guess, for your father, no?
It wasn't good enough for me because of my father. When I was 9 years old, I don't think I needed my father anymore to be hard on me. I was doing a good job myself, you know, and I don't know what voice was in my head, but I'm sure much of it came from his voice behind me all the time when I was young, and you know. So yeah, it was not a pleasant experience, the pressures I felt as a youngster, the feeling I had in the home, but this grew into a rebellion because I was sent away to an academy, which then played out on a world stage, and then I'm being told who I was, even though I didn't know who I was. So all these things lined up for me just to always feel slightly, you know, angered by where I was, you know. Not that it didn't come with great things, you know.
Of course it did.
From the
all
outside,
your life.
yeah.
I know.
Outside you look and you say you're winning and you got fame and you got fortune and and these things are good, and these things are also confusing because you feel this disconnect, yet you feel like you need it somehow, and you know, I had to go to the top and to the bottom to understand.
That's the only way
reason.
to go, inside, really deep inside, no?
Yeah, it's only choice, you know. We can change our environment, but you're keeping the same play, and you're just changing the actors. You know, you have to figure it out. And mine was a long journey, and one that came around at the end. You know, it wasn't always hate. The scales got more
There were
balanced.
like mixed feelings, like love-hate relationship with tennis, or
Hate-love.
hate-love.
It went to love eventually when I found my reason.
How did you reconcile with tennis? I mean, how did you got in terms with tennis?
I gave myself the permission to quit when I was 140 in the world. I fell from number one, and I was miserable and never hated it so much in my life, and I said, that's it. I give myself the permission to quit. And once I did that, I got stubborn, and I became a perfectionist to myself, which is now I'm going to focus on my reason. And I don't know what that is yet, but I'm gonna find my reason.
How did you find it? And how did you find your mission?
Yeah, I found it through my foundation. The one thing I knew is that children that don't have choice in their life and that aren't good at tennis have real problems. You know, children that don't have education in life and don't get as lucky as I got, they end up in real desperate situations. Not somebody who's famous and wealthy complaining about life. You know, they end up in gangs and prisons. Sometimes they don't grow up at all. Their life is taken too short. So as I started to think about these things, I started to focus on giving children that don't have that opportunity that hope through education. This became very clear to me as I was going through it.
Do you remember when happened? Which was the turning point? I mean, which was the...
Yeah, the epiphany happened.
Epiphany, exactly.
The epiphany happened with my coach at 140 in the world, taking a wild card into a tennis tournament in Germany. And I lost first round, and I was terrible. And my coach said to me just directly, we got to quit or start over. But there's nothing in between anymore. You're so far gone, you're so far away from where you need to be.
You were what age?
27.
Okay.
And I never hated it so much in my life in that moment, because I felt like a failure. I felt like a waste, like a underachiever, you know, and I was considered an underachiever. But I went back to the beginning, and I started every day, you know, and my journey with tennis was only beginning.
And then you learned to love what you were doing. I mean,
I learned to have
I couldn't
reason.
understand the way you were playing without the will, the desire, the passion. No? I mean, doing something every day without passion, without desire, it should be very hard, no?
It's much harder, but fear is an incredible motivator.
Also, yeah, you're right.
Right?
Sí, sí, sí.
When there's nowhere to go, and you have to fight to survive, you know. Survival is scary. And that's how I felt many times. And some days were better than other days. Some days were easier. But it didn't change that each day I didn't know what to expect, and each day it was a fight and a hope, and felt out of my control.
Now, for the last time, recent times you were playing, you started to enjoy playing tennis? I mean, is there something like enjoying playing tennis? Can you be happy being a champion and being
You can be
very
happy.
good?
You can be happy when you learn yourself doing anything. And what I realized is tennis isn't to blame for how I felt. You know,
It was yourself, finally.
It was myself, and tennis was the stage, you know, that this was happening on. So, do I still have bad memories of tennis? No question. Many years I spent feeling the anxiety that comes with that sort of pressure and that sort of life. But I did have a lot of great moments, and more as I got older, more and more after I found my reason, and these started to balance the scales a little bit more. But do you make up for the seared memories of a child? Do you make up for the torment you put yourself through? You know,
the pressure.
Yeah, that you do it to yourself. You know, this is damaging. I don't blame tennis for it, but it's true. You step on a court even at 35 years old, you know, and you feel like it's a discipline you're showing to remove that emotion. You know, this is a discipline. It wasn't natural for me just to feel like the court was an escape from my world. You know, many athletes talk about this. I've heard Michael Jordan talk about it. Everything could go wrong in his life. When he went on the basketball court, he finally had his control, his world.
And the best of the time.
Yeah, and this is something I never recognized, you know. Never had, and so therefore it was a discipline I had to learn, how to make it only about the game, only about being the best you can, only about trying to achieve and making yourself better regardless. You know, this is a muscle you develop.
Not the best, but the best you can, which is very different, no?
Very different. You hope the best you can be is the best,
yeah, of course.
Because there's a measurement we use in tennis called, you know, your ranking. You
know? I know, yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, it's not about being the best. It's about getting the best out of yourself.
But this is all about winning and losing. So life cannot be like that. I mean, either you win or you lose in a match, no?
Yeah, no question. The scoreboard doesn't lie.
Yeah.
You know, but the scoreboard also doesn't say a lot of other things. You know, the scoreboard tells you if you won or you lost, but it doesn't tell you if
you're a loser or you're a champion.
Yeah, well, it doesn't tell you what you found either, and you find a lot of things inside these lines. You know, you find yourself, you find your will, you find, you know, your perseverance. You know, you find people and relationships, and you know, there's a lot of good around it. You know, but so winning and losing this happens in life. You know.
Is winning as sweet and wonderful as losing bitter and painful?
For most of my career, no. Losing was worse and stays with you longer, because by definition you have to. You know, you get better, even with your wins, you get better. But when you lose, you have to learn from it, so it doesn't happen again, at least the same way the next time. And just based on that, you dwell on it, and you marinate on it, and you think about it, and you don't forget it, and you feel it, and you correct it, and you know, by nature you have to take your losses and keep them, because that's what you use to push yourself forward.
But that you have to learn also.
You have
how to learn out of failure also, no?
Yeah, and how to accept yourself regardless, and that's not an easy thing to do, because you feel like your identity is wrapped up in this for a long time.
Do you remember your father saying, how proud, I feel so proud of you, or no?
I remember feeling like my father was very proud of me.
But he never said?
Never said it. But many people tell me he says it about me.
Yeah.
Of course, right? So, but
never to you.
Never to me. But more importantly than saying it, even though this is important, feeling it is more important. And
you always knew he was proud of you, and because he expected so much from you.
Yeah,
no?
One of the few things I knew is that he was proud of me. You know.
And you knew it always?
I did, especially when I was younger. I questioned it when I was a teenager. You know, I questioned it later, at times. But when I was young, very much. You know, I was his. You know, I was the future #1 player in the world. He believed I could do it. So this is pressure, but this is also very flattering.
Yeah.
You know, it's a powerful emotion for a young boy.
Well, actually, there's a passage in the book where you were like 9 years old, or I don't know how old you were, that he put all his savings, no, into a match that you were going to win.
He was convinced.
He was convinced you were going to win. You were 9 years old, or how old?
Nine years old. I wasn't so convinced.
What did you feel? I mean,
I don't know how to put in the words, but this is just something a child shouldn't have to feel. I mean, your whole life on the line because you can beat somebody in tennis, and this guy happened to be one of the greatest NFL football players in the history of the game, one of the great running backs. And you know, he's a great athlete, but I was a really good tennis player, and I had a strange confidence because of my father, but I also was, you know, scared to death. So again, you know, these are emotions you go through, and when you're 9, it makes a lasting impression.
Yeah, of course. How did you decide to write this book? I mean, it's so touching and so moving, so inspiring, but I couldn't think of a better title for the book because it's very open.
Yeah.
Not like you open yourself and your heart. I mean, and to share all this, your feelings and your thoughts with people, it's like an exorcism, I guess. No?
Well, yeah, you know, I think we all search for connection. You know, we all need connection, and I always did. You always knew how I felt on a tennis court, regardless if it was good or bad. You know, it was natural for me to be open. You know, but I wanted to understand my life. I wanted to understand it through a literary lens, literally understand it, how these experiences added up to who I was. And even at 35, 36 years old, while I had learned these things, I wasn't sure in context what journey I had really traveled, you know. And then once I had it, I then asked myself, are people better off for me sharing this? And I believe this was the easy part, you know. It was very apparent to me. And the most...
Everything is said here, no? All about you. I mean, what you felt, what you thought.
Sure, but that's life. It's good. You know, I mean, the most disappointing part of the book is believe it or not, is the title, because when we thought of this title, it meant so many things. Yeah. You know, it was not just me being open with everything I felt my whole life.
And open has to do with tennis, no?
Open has to do with tennis. Open has my life is a series of moments that I've been open to or not open to. You know, in a bookstore, it's suggestive, but it's not preaching. I'm telling somebody to open this and open their mind, open their heart.
Their heart.
You know, but yet it's not preaching at them. You know, there are many reasons why I wanted this to be called, you know, open. But most people perceived open as just, I'm going to tell you everything, you know. And this is for sure the case, but it was much more than that.
Who helped you to go deep inside yourself and writing the book?
J.R. Moehringer. He's a Pulitzer Prize winning author, one of the smartest, most perceptive people I've ever met. I got to spend 3 of the best years of my life with him. He moved to Las Vegas. We pretty much lived together for the time of the book. And he took great care with my life.
You kept a journal, a diary? Because, I mean, everything is like, or you just remember everything?
Well, listen, my life has been very public. So from 16 on, most things are documented. But it takes, you know, writing a book is not easy. It's not what people think. It's, you have to shake the tree many different ways, you know, and that requires...
And again, it's painful again, no?
Yeah,
to
but
go back and to...
rewarding, though, you know, very rewarding to understand, very liberating to become clear, you know. But you ask people, though, about your life, and some of my memories were shaken loose because I talked to my brother about something, and then he tells me what he remembered, and when he remembers something, it makes me remember. And I talked to my father about this, and he has his perspective, and everybody comes to the table with their perspective. And if you work hard enough, you collectively have a comprehensive story. It's like a car accident that you see somebody from this side, somebody sees somebody from this side, somebody sees this, and you put it together, and it all of a sudden starts to make sense. And so it's a lot of work, it's a lot of discipline, it's a lot of care, a lot of people's lives that you intersect with, that you got to be mindful of, respectful of. But yet you have to be clear. You have to stand for something. You can't have everybody like you. It's not the way it works.
And you have to accept that, no?
And you accept not liking everybody.
But to begin with.
So it works both ways. But then even in those that you struggled with at different stages of your life, I still had to show the discipline to be harder on myself. It still is more of a reflection of how I was broken versus some judgment on who they were. You know, this was for sure the case, because when you're not healthy, when you're not clear, when you're confused, people and things look different. There are times with Pete, my rival.
Your nemesis.
Well, yeah, he cost me many titles. I only cost him a few, but at the end of the day, I think
he made you a better player, a better athlete. And that rivalry made you better.
In some ways, he pushed me. In some ways, he stunted me. You know. But overall, I was a better person because of him. He made me look in the mirror, because he was so the opposite of me. And so there were times when I resented it, times when I envied it, times when I, tried to emulate it. He was like a mirror, and when I judged him, it usually had to do with how I felt about myself. So while you're saying something that is true and maybe not in the best light for somebody else, it's clear in my writing that it has to do with my perspective or lack of.
When you see yourself in the mirror nowadays, do you like what you see?
More days than not. More days than not. You know, again.
And back then?
Yeah, back then, no. I didn't know what I was looking at, and this disconnect was.
Was the image confusing, or was it disturbing? What is it that you didn't like about yourself? I mean, or you felt guilty, or
didn't know myself, and I felt like it was a facade. It was like a shell game. Felt like one big giant Ponzi scheme, you know. Me being this successful tennis player, it was like I didn't even recognize myself as a tennis player.
You didn't see yourself as very successful and.
No. I mean, listen, we all can point to things and say, well, I'm better off than somebody else, and we find our moments that we take some refuge in this, but the truth is who you are, and. You know, and this is something that took me years to get comfortable with. Every time I did an interview, I said what I think people wanted to hear.
To listen.
Yeah,
not what you were willing to say.
Yeah, and now it's different. You ask me a question, and it is what it is. And so there's a level of growth in that, you know. And there are times you're on a tennis court, and you you have just an out-of-body experience. It's like you just can't believe this is your life, you know. Whether you're feeling great or feeling bad, that didn't seem to matter. I mean, when you're feeling bad, maybe you're more emotionally vulnerable. But when you felt great, sometimes this was also disturbing to me, because I felt like I was creating something I had to continually live up to. You know, and that's not easy either. So it's not like I had things to complain about. There's no real. I didn't have a disease. I wasn't dying, you know. But every day it felt like that. Every day it felt like a part of me was.
Pete was better than you?
Yeah.
And that was. Do you feel envy, jealous? Or you...
No, not that he's better. This is the least thing I cared about. Being the best only meant having to do more to me. Sometimes it was easier to lose. Sometimes it was easier to have the expectations low. Pete was better because he knew himself. Maybe you could argue he's simple. You could argue he's not as complicated. You could argue he's more understanding of himself. You know, maybe his environment was different. Maybe there's reasons. I don't know him personally very well, but I do know that what I saw was somebody that could do something that I couldn't do. And I couldn't treat tennis as an opportunity. I couldn't treat big moments as a chance of greatness. You know, it was never about tennis to me, not for a long time. And even when I made it about tennis at the end, it was a muscle. It wasn't natural.
And you got better as years passed by. You know, you got better and better and better because then you started to know why you were doing it. Maybe, no?
For sure, the clarity helped, but again, the feeling of keeping that emotion away is a discipline. It's a muscle, like a body part.
You have to train.
You train it, it gets stronger, and the stronger it gets, the easier it gets. But you have to train it, and I had to work hard to remind myself how to take away these emotions when I stepped on the court, that there was a job to do, and there was reason for me doing this job, and this job starts when it starts, and it doesn't end till it's over. So everything you do in between those 2 points either takes you closer or takes you further, and that muscle I got better at always getting me closer. Just, I'm not going to go further. And that's a discipline, but it wasn't natural.
Why education? Why did you think about giving people and giving children education? Because you lacked education because you were not, when you were a child, you were out of school. I mean, no?
Yeah, I think my lack of education is part of it. I think not having choice in my life is a bigger part of it. My life being determined for me. This makes me think about how predetermined so many children's lives are, whether they know it or not. They don't live thinking tomorrow can be what they want it to be. They have no choice. They don't think there's a way out. They only see life for what happens in their neighborhood, what happens in their family, what happens in their gang, what happens in their activity. And you know, they don't see a blank canvas that they can be anything they want.
And what you do gives them a choice.
You give them choice. You give them hope with education, and that's something that I will always fight for them.
How do you feel now? You feel happy? Do you enjoy what you're doing?
Yeah, no, I enjoy what I do. Yeah, I only do what I'm compelled to, and it's not joy as in success. It's joy as in clarity and peace. This is what I want to be doing, and that makes me feel motivated, and it makes me feel natural, and it makes me feel now it's easy to wake up and have my day because there's going to be...
And do what you have to do.
Yeah, do what I have to do because it's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And it makes a difference.
I don't know how do you say this word in English. Tirano, tyrant?
Right.
You've been a tyrant with yourself.
I'm tested by acid bath, I assure you. What comes out the other end is pure gold.
Yeah. I mean, I think your father was very nice to you compared to what you do with yourself or what you've done with yourself.
Yeah, if my dad is a standard of discipline, I'm a perfectionist to be better at it than him. I was better at being hard on me than he was.
That's wow.
But I learned from the best.
How are you as a father? I mean, what you don't do with your children that your dad used to do with you?
Well, it's just a level of priorities, that's all. You know, my father was nothing if not clear, disciplined, generous, loyal, all the wonderful things that you would want for your children and for yourself. But his priorities were different. It was success, and success was clear to him. What he didn't have, which was money, opportunity.
Was it all about money for him? You think so?
Yeah, to this day.
Till this day.
He says to me, if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't let you play tennis, baseball, or golf. And I say, why is that? Because you can play longer and you can make more money.
No.
Yeah, and he's
wow,
a successful parent because he provided that.
Yeah.
And that's not for me to judge, but God bless him for being clear.
We make the best we can, no? As parents, we do the best we can.
Right. If you call your shot, then you better deliver it.
Yeah.
And that's the least we can do. So he called his shot, and it came with sacrifice. It came with relationships. It came with everything. And he stayed true to what he believed he needed to do for us. And he sees it that way today.
How's your relationship with him nowadays?
I don't know what terms to use. Very healthy, because
now you stand up for yourself, no? I mean...
No, it has nothing to do with standing up. It has to do with understanding him.
Okay.
You know, I would say that he is, he's a clear man, simple, and shares some of my own torments. He's a perfectionist as well. There's more complexity to my life and challenges. His was very one-dimensional, but clear, hardworking, clear. And when you accept somebody for who they are and you meet them where they're, everything's easier.
Yeah.
You get to a point you don't need people to understand you anymore. You know, it's more important that you understand them.
Then, tennis has given you everything, also your family, no? Your wife, everything. Do you talk about tennis? I mean, because you started talking about tennis, you started with Steffi, no? And you were a fan, and there's something like devotion, no? From you to Steffi.
Well, we have a, blessed relationship. It's unbelievable how close we are, but in tennis has very little to do with it. I mean, I can't say it's little to do. We don't talk about it much, but tennis has made us who we are. And this gives us a skill set to be, we both have a high capacity for pain, let me put it that way. So as a result, nothing's too difficult. Everything's accomplishable. And we don't spend a lot of time talking, we spend more time doing. And when I played, it was more about what you don't have to say. This is what it helps. Understanding the game is one thing, but understanding what you go through is another. So when I lost, or when I had when my behavior was extreme, whether it was sad or happy, you don't have to, there's not a lot you have to say, because
there's nothing to say. She knew.
She knows. She knows it all too well. She knows it more times than me, except the losing part.
And she understands. She understands what's the feeling of losing, because
I know, right? Yeah. So she had to learn this through me.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a crack.
Yeah, but she's good.
She's very good. She's very good. Your children play tennis?
My daughter twice a week, but for fun. She does everything and loves it. Dance, piano, tennis.
How old is she?
10.
10. And you have a
son,
boy
12.
also. 12. He's not into tennis?
Baseball.
Baseball.
Loves it.
What do you think? Would you like them to play tennis, or you'd rather not?
if I had my say, I would say no.
Okay.
I like the fact that my daughter knows how to play, because when you get older, it's a great sport with people and healthy and long time in life. But no, you don't. The life of an athlete is, listen, there's a lot of philosophies, and you know, what percentage make it in anything in a sport, and then you take that percentage and you say how many of them have the luxury of a career that's sustaining without injury, or long enough for a life after. You spend a third of your life not preparing for 2/3 of your life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's, and then you hope if you do make it that somebody doesn't steal it from you.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and then when you're done and you've succeeded and you've kept your money and you're moving on with your life, it seems like most of them feel like their life's over with when the sport's over with. You know, there's nothing.
And they're 25 or they're 27.
Yeah, and they're 30 years old. But there's very little to take from it. There's a lot to learn in the journey, but there's a lot to learn in every journey. So the thought of being an athlete or professional sport is not appetizing.
Your son made a commercial, no?
No, it was not my son, but.
Oh, it was your son?
No.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Hollywood.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But you, when I was reading your book, you say tennis is the loneliest sport of all. That you're by yourself all the time. You talk to yourself, and you're the only listener, and you're the only one who's making the talking. You do all the talking.
Yeah, talk and you answer, and you know, I mean, it's like solitary confinement. You'll never see a sport where somebody talks to themselves as much as tennis. Even if somebody is healthy and enjoying it, the dialogue that you watch these players talk to themselves. This happens when they take you from the prison cell and they put you in solitary confinement, and there's nobody. You start to talk to yourself. It's alone. You have to problem solve, and you have to figure it out, and you have to hold yourself to the highest standard every moment, and that standard is fatiguing physically, mentally, and you still got to get the most, because you don't know when your opponent's gonna fall to pieces, and you don't know when you're gonna fall to pieces, and you pretend, and you bluff, and you hope that you're right, and you know, so it's lonely.
Andre, how does tennis resemble to life? It's a match, finally, no? Life, it's a match.
It's problem solving at its finest. You know, you got to figure it out, and every problem is different. Every problem inside a tennis court is different. Every game you play is different. It's never the same answer. And in life, it's the same. You know, there's many things you have to figure out. You develop the tools, you develop the system you count on to go through the process, and you learn, and you get better, and you make better decisions. You know, it's the same.
What would be the score of your life right now?
Hopefully, we would be early in the first set.
Early in the first set. That's
I hope so.
Great.
That means we got 4 or 5 sets to go.
I'm reading a wonderful book about Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche,
Right.
and he says that the most terrible thing that can happen to someone is to see your life just passes by you, not living your life, no? Like life lives you. You don't live life. And I think a little bit that's what happened to you before, no? When you were young and you were a kid, and all your journey through your career, no?
Yeah, I had the best seat in the house. But it was front row, and I was a bystander. Yeah.
Is image everything?
For a piece of film, maybe.
Because image said a lot about you, no? Also. About your temperament and your character and the way you were feeling and the way you were approaching to things and tennis and everything.
Yeah, I think it showed my searching. You know, I don't know if it reflected me. I don't know if parts did here and there, just like now more parts do. But you know, you're always making sure that you are. It's not what you say; it's what somebody hears. It's not what you do; it's what somebody sees or feels, you know. So you try to learn and grow, and when I look back, it's a lot of learning.
According to you, who's the best player, the tennis player of all times?
You know, I gotta say, it'd be hard to put anybody ahead of Nadal.
He's great, right?
Yeah, no, I just say that because, listen, the best I ever played was Federer. I never played Nadal at his best. He was still young, but he was still good enough for me.
Okay.
But if you ask me whose career I'd want, Federer's, Nadal's, maybe Laver, you could still talk about because of what he managed to accomplish. But I mean, Nadal's won everything, gold medal, Davis Cups, multiple slams, every slam. Australia, he almost won now. Be the only male to win every one at least twice. I mean, you know, he's been dominant record against the greatest of all time, arguably, in Federer during his prime. I mean, when you start looking at it, it's a real simple equation to me, you know. Whose career would you rather have? 17, 13, I don't care how many, you know. It's Federer separated himself from Hewitt, from Roddick. You know, Nadal separated himself from Federer, from Djokovic, from Murray. So in the golden age of a generation, he's the one that shined. You got to give him his respect for that.
Do you know him personally?
No.
You don't? Would you like to play with him, like for fun?
No.
No?
No.
Not even for fun? No.
There's nothing he needs to prove to me. I believe it. I believe it, yeah. Yeah, but I'm always interested in people, so.
Yeah, but do you think, I just want to ask you this, do you think he's enjoying himself, or do you think it's also like a very hard passage for him, a process for him?
I think life is a process for everybody. I don't know how he engages with it. He sure has me believing. It's hard to believe you can bluff that. So he seems genuine in nature, kind to his peers, humble, understated, kind to fans, hardworking, disciplined, always prepared, professional. You know, these are signs that he's a pretty healthy person.
What does your thing says? Daddy rocks?
My son made it for me.
Your son, yeah.
When I was 5.
How?
When he
Really?
was 5, yeah.
And you've never taken a? You always keep.
Yeah.
You still live in Vegas, right? So you know about gambling.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a gambler.
Life is a gamble.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. Life is a gamble. Yeah.
Sometimes you lose and sometimes you win.
Well, house always wins.
And you're your own house right now, no?
Well, back to this earth is the house. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's over. So, make the most of it. And
you're a legend. What do you feel of being part of tennis history?
I don't see it in the context, but it's, you know, it's great to feel like you contributed and that you added to it. That makes me feel good, that I was part of its evolution, but just a part, you know. And it's fun, the people, being connected to a lot of people over the years. So I've made a lot of great relationships, great platform to make many more, and grateful for it.
Is there such thing as friendship in the court, or no?
No, not in my estimation. It's no. You can't be friends with somebody that, if they know you, they have an advantage. You know, you're friends with people that weren't as much of a competitor. You know, somebody ranked much lower. It's the same with Steph. She was close friends with somebody, but they were always not ranked as high, because this is, you know, so that's possible.
And your team, are you still friends with your team? Because you were like a family. Yeah,
we just don't, you know, travel the world anymore, but we're still a family. So
thank you very much, Andre. You're a religious man? Because your father is Armenian, no? Yeah. How's your last name? Agassian?
Yeah, originally.
Originally. And I was told people, your closest friends call you Dre? Or no?
I get called a lot of things, and most of them are good.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, but are you a religious man? Because you were pretty much into Christianism, no?
I wouldn't say religious. I don't really have a great deal of belief in religion as
the
man-made.
institution.
Yeah, but I carry a strong faith.
Faith. Okay, so thank you very much, and I hope to see you soon in Vegas,
Yeah,
which we enjoy. Can you?
Oh, of course.
Yeah?
Yeah, why not? This is when you're glad you're not a golfer, you know?
Yeah, sure. We were talking about this, you said it's very difficult, no?
Yeah.
The synthetic grass. Thank you so much.
Slippery and fast. Pleasure.
Slippery and fast. Hope to see you soon.
Yeah,
again.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you very
Yeah.
much. Bye. Bye-bye.